What is up, everybody, and welcome to another Dynasty Talk show with Sam. You can check me out at Where's Waldorf right here on the screen. Today, we are going to do a contender by now episode. So before we get going, what does that mean, right? Are you a contender or a rebuilder in your Dynasty League? So contender, I would say probably top 4 team. You can compete for a bye week for the playoffs. If you are not within that realm, these trades may not be for you. If you are within that realm, I'm going to go through a couple trades for each position that I think are great value and great guys to get on your team to help you win a championship this year. We're going to do super flex mostly for these leagues. Obviously, running backs and wide receivers will be for all sorts of leagues. It doesn't have to be super flex. But for the quarterbacks, we're going to assume super flex. So to get going today, for the QB position, 2 guys I think that we should be going to get if you are a contender in a win now mode is Jared Goff and Geno Smith. And I think both of these guys are about a similar price range. Goff may be a little more expensive just because of his, even going back to his rookie year, his draft capital, he's held a little of that. And I think for both of these guys, something that I would be willing to trade for both of them if I'm going for win now would be a late first round pick, right? Or an early second rounder with a future second attached as well. So basically, I think why I'm saying that is who's someone we're getting at the late first in rookie drafts. It's a guy like Will Levis, right? So for a rebuilding team, Will Levis is the kind of guy you would want on a rebuild, maybe not Jared Goff. So if I can swap, Will Levis for Jared Goff, Geno Smith on a win now team, that is a winning move, right? You can play Jared Goff every week as your QB2. You can play Geno Smith as your QB2. They have great weapons. They had pretty good seasons last year, especially Geno Smith. So those are both moves that I would be happy to go make if I'm a contender. Other QBs, it's a tough position. Like, obviously, anyone above those guys is someone I would want as well. But I just think for the price, I think these are 2 guys I would love to go get. Now we're going to move on to running back, and there's some more names here. So this is a little more fun position. So the number 1 guy, I don't think we need to overthink this, if I'm being honest. And if you're a contender and you're trying to win, it means you're looking at this season and this season only, right? Because that's what winning is about. We don't need to look 3 years from now. That's for the rebuilding teams. If you're trying to win, you need to look at the season and you need to look right now. So I'm going simple, Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry, probably the oldest guy who's being drafted as an RB1. So why not go get him if you're trying to make a championship run? We're not thinking about next year. We're not thinking about the year after. So I think some good guys that you could maybe target to use to go get Derrick Henry. I'm going to use a couple players and then I'll throw some picks in as well. I think a wide receiver like Christian Kirk would be a great guy I would trade to go get Derrick Henry. He's a great role player. He's younger, so a Henry owner who is looking to rebuild may be okay, taking Kirk for Henry. But as a winner, I don't think Christian Kirk's going to lead you to a title the way Derrick Henry can. And so I think that's a great move that you could potentially make. Another guy, probably similar price range to Derrick Henry, is going to be Miles Sanders. I think the contract in Carolina I think it's a sneaky good spot for Sanders. And being honest, he was productive enough last year. He's been up and down throughout his whole career. But I just think they signed him. They wanted him. And it's tough to find usable running backs. And I think the price range for Sanders is similar. Christian Kirk, another couple guys I think I would move for Henry or Sanders would be James Cook, maybe Kadarius Toney in a future second. I think these are all trades that could get done and could get you these guys, which would put up points immediately for your team and help you win now instead of helping you in the future, which I think is what it comes down to. I always like to say in Dynasty, you either need to be trying to win or trying to lose. And if you're not doing one of those 2 things, I don't think you're going to find the success that you want to find. So those are kind of a little more top tier contender buys. I think what I would do if I'm aiming a little lower, a guy I love, and a guy who's actually getting a lot of credit right now is Samaje Perine, right? They brought him in. They specifically wanted him. Sean Payton wanted Samaje Perine. And I know we all think Javonte Williams might be healthy, but I just have a really hard time believing that it's not J.K. Dobbins from last year. And even if Williams does play, they're going to want a second guy in there. And I think Perine could be serviceable as an RB3 for your dynasty team if you're just looking for a good depth guy. Some things I think you could use to go get Samaje Perine. I mean, just to make it simple, I think a third-round pick would be a great trade. Just easy swap. 2023 third, 2024 third-round pick, get it done. If they want a fourth-round pick on top of that, throw it in and get it done. Some other guys I think you could look at would be maybe some slightly younger handcuffs, like an Elijah Mitchell type. Maybe you have Elijah Mitchell and the Perine owner has McCaffrey, and you can just swap them one for one and get the guy you want. Even though I think Mitchell could have some standalone value, I still don't like investing in handcuffs too much. I think Perine is you're investing in the hope that he's not necessarily a handcuff. You're investing that you think Javonte Williams may not be ready for the year. Another guy I think maybe you could use to go target Samaje Perine, Jacoby Myers, a guy who he's a good depth piece, but I don't really see him having the upside to win you any games other than a wide receiver 3, a flex 1, a flex 2 on your bye weeks. And I think those are all some good running back buys. You know, Henry, Sanders, Perine, different prices, but it's a position that if you're trying to win and compete, you need to go get and you need to target in the offseason, during the season, and you need to not be afraid to spend your picks to go get the guys that you want. So we're going to move on to wide receiver here next. The guy I'm going to start off with at wide receiver is Tyler Lockett. I think right now is actually a really great time to go buy Tyler Lockett. I think with JSN going there, Lockett and Metcalf may become slightly cheaper than you would think. And I just have a hard time believing that Lockett's going to lose all of his value and not be someone that you could plug in as your wide receiver 3, your wide receiver 2 on certain weeks. And let's not forget he's been a top 24 wide receiver like year after year after year. And Geno's there. He had a good connection with him. And I don't see all of that changing. Obviously, JSN lowers his ceiling, but Lockett was a great player last year. And I just think the price might be right for Tyler Lockett. I think for Lockett, I'm aiming to move a late second and a third. You know, if you can move a guy who's going in the late second, or let's say you've already drafted Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims. I like all of these guys, but if you're trying to win, I don't think they have necessarily the upside in this season that you might need to play them on a weekly basis, like someone that Tyler Lockett could be for your team, right? Two other guys I think I would target if I am a contender is both of the other Charger guys, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And I think this is very similar to what we were saying with Tyler Lockett, is that with Quentin Johnston going there, the other receivers may become slightly cheaper, which may be a great time to go acquire them and go buy them, right? I don't think any of us think that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the field don't have the ability to produce top seasons anymore. They've just been up and down with injuries, especially last year. But as much as we like QJ and the potential he could be, I don't see him being the one this year, right? I think that's more of a long-term play. Keenan Allen's going to get fed targets, and Mike Williams, when he plays, has been a monster with Justin Herbert, right? He has big play after big play with Herbert down the field, and he's a touchdown guy, right? I mean, he's big. He gets the ball thrown up to him. So when going to acquire either of these Charger guys, two people that I think would be good trades, and it does depend on your construction of your team, but if I could turn Cam Akers, Isaiah Pacheco, one of these RB2, RB3s, you know, David Montgomery maybe, David Montgomery in a pick, Akers in a late pick for Williams in a late pick, something like that, that I think could really help you out as an owner. You know, like Keenan Allen's probably going to be more valuable for your team this season than Isaiah Pacheco. And with the longevity issues at the running back position, I don't even want to say that Pacheco's a better long-term asset than Keenan Allen. Like, Keenan Allen could be a top 16 wide receiver, and I don't know if we're ever going to see a top 16 season out of Isaiah Pacheco. So when it comes down to it, that player is very likely more helpful for your team than Pacheco or Akers. Like, Akers could have a good year this year, but Akers could be gone. And I'd much rather take the guy tied to Justin Herbert for this season and maybe for 1 to 2 more than take a shot on one of these lower level running backs who could be replaced at any second. So we're going to move on to tight end next. And, obviously if you're trying to win, Travis Kelce, if you can acquire him for any sort of first round pick, late first round pick, that should be your number one target. But I don't think that's as realistic. I think what it would take to get Kelce might not be worth your assets that you're giving up to get him. So with that being said, my number one contender by now for tight end is Darren Waller. I think what you're betting on with Darren Waller is that he can stay healthy for this season. And if he can do that, I would not be surprised to see him be tight end 2, tight end 3 at the end of the year. He obviously has the athletic profile. And I think what Darren Waller has going for him, similar to Travis Kelce, is that he is very likely the best pass catching option on that New York Giant team, which is something that most tight ends are not able to say. Even tight ends like TJ Hawkinson, who we love TJ Hawkinson, but Justin Jefferson's the one on that team. It's not TJ Hawkinson. Or George Kittle, right? They have CMC he's competing with. And I know Barkley's there as well, but Debo, Ayuk, right? They have more weapons than San Fran. And the Giants just don't necessarily have the weapons that I could totally see Darren Waller getting 120 targets if he plays every game, right? Now, that's a big if. He hasn't been able to stay healthy these past couple seasons. But I just have a hard time believing that if he's on the field, he's not going to score for you. Some targets I think I would use to go get Darren Waller. I think a couple guys fall into this category in Dynasty Fantasy Football where they're not that tight end 1, but they're an upside tight end 2 or an upside low tight end 1, right? Chigakonkwo, Greg Dulcich, Cole Kmet, even a lot of these rookies like Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta. I wouldn't trade Kincaid. I think Kincaid has that upside, and he's just too valuable to trade for Waller right now. But if you can move any of those lower tier tight end 1s, the 8 through 12, 8 through 15, and I even like these guys if you're rebuilding, right? I'm a big Chig guy if you're rebuilding. But if you're not rebuilding, Waller has the upside to put you at the top tier at that position. And I don't think Chig's going to get there this year. He may in 2 or 3 years. But, if you're having a win now team with, let's say you've purchased everyone that we just went over. You've got Jared Goff, Derrick Henry, Tyler Lockett, and you're pairing that with a QB1 and some good running backs. Like, Waller's the guy you want. You don't want to depend on Greg Dulcich at the end of the season. You want someone who's probably going to have a 20% target share in his offense, and that is Darren Waller. Another guy that I would definitely target that is a cheaper option is Juwan Johnson. I think Juwan Johnson is kind of being forgotten about when it comes to fantasy football right now. People are forgetting that he was weirdly consistent last year, and that was in an incredibly unreliable and honestly kind of sad New Orleans offense with Andy Dalton at the helm. And who's come to New Orleans, right? It's Derek Carr who made Darren Waller famous, right? He peppered Darren Waller for years and really got him into fantasy relevance. And I just think Juwan Johnson could be a sleeper this year that you don't have to pay this upside price. Like, you see where he's going in drafts. He's going in round 15, 16, 17 in dynasty drafts. And it's just people are not targeting this guy. I think what I would try to move for Juwan Johnson would be 1/3 in a normal league, probably 2/3 in a tight end premium league. I mean, it is tight end premium. So if that's the scoring, people aren't going to give him up for a third because they're just going to look at his sleeper profile, his stats from last year, and they're going to be like, oh, he was kind of good last year. Like, I don't want to give that player up. But I think he's a good guy to pair with a stud, right? I don't know if I'd want to play Juwan Johnson as my 1, but if I have a guy like George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, I think Juwan Johnson's a great guy to put behind him for bye weeks or for those weeks where you might have to maybe you got an injury you got to fight through. Mark Andrews, Lamar goes down, and you don't want to play him anymore. Or really any of these situations could happen, right? So that is it for the show today, guys. I really wanted to keep it short. I know we're technically live, but I think this is a great rewatch and just some good names to go over. So just to run down the list again, as some of these guys I think we should go by. At QB, we have Jared Goff and Geno Smith. At running back, we have Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, and Samaje Perine. At wide receiver, we have Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. And at tight end, we have Darren Waller, who I think is, if I could choose anyone on this list, is the guy I really want to buy more than anyone else, I would say. I think it's Darren Waller. And then Juwan Johnson as a throw-in, as someone who I think you should add as a great depth piece. I hope you check this out. I hope you share this around. If you are trying to get in contact with me on Twitter, it's right here below at Where's Waldorf. Having so much fun doing these videos. And this is just part one. I think we could do a whole series of Contender by now. It's just to help everyone out, is get a list of names and determine trades to go get these players. So I hope this helped you out. I hope you win your league. And thanks for checking it out, guys.